There is a moment many parents reach quietly. Not after an argument. Not after a crisis. Just a moment of noticing. You realize you have begun choosing your words carefully with your own children. Not to be kind, you were always kind. But to avoid asking for too much. You notice how often you say, "It's fine. Don't worry about me. I don't want to be a bother." And you wonder when love became something you felt the need to apologize for. This question sits beneath many conversations about aging, even when no one names it. Do adult children owe their parents anything? Emotionally, practically, morally? Or is love supposed to be freely given, with no expectations attached? For many of us, this question feels unsettling. Because we come from a time when duty was not a dirty word. We didn't talk much about emotional labor or boundaries. We talked about showing up, doing what needed to be done, keeping promises even when it was inconvenient. Many parents listening to this lived their lives that way. They sacrificed quietly, without announcements, without keeping score. You worked long hours. You worried privately. You swallowed disappointments, so your children wouldn't have to. You didn't call it sacrifice. You called it parenting. And now, in later life, you hear a very different language. You hear people say, children don't owe their parents anything. Love should never feel like obligation. Parents chose to have children, children didn't choose them. Intellectually, you may understand these ideas. Emotionally, they land differently. Because they seem to erase something important. The invisible thread of responsibility that once held families together. Not responsibility enforced by guilt, but responsibility grown from gratitude. Here is where the tension lives. No parent wants to be entitled. No parent wants obedience or control. Most parents simply want presence. To matter. To feel remembered. But presence is harder to define than obligation. A visit that feels rushed can feel worse than no visit at all. A phone call that sounds distracted can feel lonelier than silence. So many parents respond by asking for less. They shrink their needs. They lower their expectations. They say, they're busy. It's different now. And sometimes that's true. The world has changed. Work is unstable. Life moves faster. Pressure comes from every direction. Adult children today carry burdens their parents never faced. Acknowledging that matters. But there's another truth living beside it. One that's harder to say out loud. Love without responsibility can slowly become convenience. And responsibility without love becomes resentment. Somewhere between those two extremes, is a fragile balance that no one teaches us how to maintain. Parents often fear crossing an invisible line. Ask too much, and you're needy. Say too little, and you disappear. So many choose disappearance. Not because it hurts less, but because it feels more dignified. There is deep pain in becoming invisible to the people who once needed you for everything. And yet, there is also danger in believing sacrifice automatically earns care. Because love given freely does not always return in the same shape. This is where confusion grows. Is emotional presence something children owe? Or something they offer? If it's owed, does it become transactional? If it's optional, does it become fragile? Many parents listening to this aren't asking for repayment. They're asking for recognition. To be seen as whole people, not just as a phase of childhood long past. At the same time, many adult children fear being trapped by obligation. They fear losing autonomy. They fear repeating unhealthy patterns. They fear being consumed by expectations they never agreed to. These fears are real. But so is the quiet grief of parents who feel they must earn attention by being easy, pleasant, undemanding. No one wins when love becomes something we negotiate instead of feel. Dignity in old age is not about control. It's about not having to beg for emotional relevance. And dignity for adult children is not about escape. It's about choosing connection without feeling coerced. Perhaps the hardest truth is this: love and obligation are not opposites. They are uncomfortable neighbors. When separated completely, both lose their meaning. Some parents cling too tightly, confusing love with entitlement. Some children pull too far away, confusing independence with detachment. Most families live somewhere in between. Uncertain, unspoken, unresolved. If you are a parent listening to this, you may recognize your own silence. If you are an adult child, you may recognize your own defensiveness. Neither makes you wrong, but both invite a harder question, one with no easy answer. Is emotional presence a debt that corrupts love, or a moral responsibility that gives love weight? And if no one truly owes anything, what, then, do we owe each other? Simply for having shared a life? That question doesn't demand agreement. It asks for honesty. And perhaps, for the courage to sit with discomfort instead of choosing silence.